Hey everyone, Connection Live coming to you live from a very stormy Tuesday night here at my house. And look outside, the wind is blowing, the clouds are rolling in. And weather forecast, we could see some thunderstorms, some high winds, maybe a little bit of rain, thunder, lightning, all that stuff that makes an awesome storm. Is a storm awesome or is it scary? That's our question tonight for you to answer on the live stream. Do you find storms fascinating or freaky? Are you kind of enamored by watching storms, watching thunder and lightning? You go out and sit out on your porch and watch them, or are you kind of freaked out and say, I kind of hide in my room and pull the blanket over my head? Well, storms are what we're going to talk about tonight, as I said here on Connection Live. And to help us out, I need your reaction. So answer the question tonight. Do you find storms fascinating or freaky? And also, part two of the question for tonight is going to be, tell us about one of the more memorable storms that you have encountered in your life. Maybe it was one where there was a tornado warning. Maybe there was, you were in a hurricane somewhere, and or maybe you just remember a certain storm where you were really kind of panicking and freaked out, or one that you just thought was so amazing. There was so much lightning and it was just really powerful and anything like that. Comment on that, and we'll go through your comments tonight as we do the Facebook Live tonight. And good to see you, Deshaun. Deshaun just posted tonight. And so to help think about storms, we're going to go back to a Bible story that takes us back to a time when Jesus and the disciples encountered a storm. To help us think about that story, here's a little bit of a reenactment of the story, the disciple and the storm. Here we go. This is a modern day story version of the disciples and the great storm. One day, after a long day of teaching, Jesus instructed his disciples to get in a boat and cross the Sea of Galilee. Jesus said, "Guys, get in the boat and take off."
Yes, Lord.
Now, the Sea of Galilee was not your normal sea. It was more like a lake. It was not very big around, and it wasn't very deep. But one thing the Sea of Galilee was well known for was its great storms. And guess what? Right at the time the disciples took off and got partway out into the sea, they encountered a great storm. Just when the storm was at its worst, they looked across the sea and they saw... Yes, they thought they saw a ghost, but actually it was Jesus walking across the water to them. Jesus called out to them and said, "It is I, do not be afraid." And so they gladly received him into their boat. And suddenly the storm stopped and they went across the sea and safely made it to shore.
You can do it, guys. God, Jesus.
The end. Well, that's a pretty amazing story. And that's some high-class acting. I have tonight the participants in that blockbuster premiere movie, The Disciples in a Storm. Sawyer, Riley, and Asher here with me tonight. Guys, thanks for helping me out by doing a video kind of depicting that story in the Bible that you can find in the Gospels, where Jesus said to his disciples, "Hey, I want you to go out in a boat." And we know that Jesus, because he is God, probably knew they were going to encounter the storm. And it was kind of an amazing event that they saw Jesus walking across the water to them. And they had a hard time believing it. And they had a hard time handling it. But in the end, I think they learned a lot through it. So tonight we're going to talk a little bit about learning about the storms of life. I want to ask you guys a question. What do you guys think about storms? Are you guys fascinated by storms, or do you find them a little bit freaky? Let's start with Sawyer. Sawyer, storms fascinating or freaky?
In between.
In between? Kind of a little bit of a both? Riley, what about you?
After this year, after I learned about what storms were and how they were constructed and, made, I found an interest in storms, and I think they're pretty interesting.
Asher, what about you?
I think it kind of depends on what kind of storm it is. If it's a nice storm and there's just a little bit of lightning and thunder and it's raining, you can sit out on the back porch and watch it. It's really cool. But if it's thundering and lightning without any stop and it's just consistent, then sometimes it's a little freaky, wondering whether you're going to get struck by lightning or not.
And we're going to ask you maybe some memorable storms that you've been in. Stacy, the fourth member of our crew, she was the prop person. She supplied the rainwater in our storm there. Stace, what about you? Are you fascinated by storms, or do storms kind of freak you out?
I love storms. I love to sleep through storms.
You like to sleep through storms. So hopefully you're not encountering storms while you're driving down the road, because then you're just going to fall asleep. That wouldn't be good. So what about it, guys? Memorable storms. You guys remember any memorable storms? I'll turn it back to myself. I remember a storm that I encountered. One year, our family went down for 4th of July in the evening to go to St. John's to watch fireworks. And I remember that I believe we saw the fireworks, and they kind of got cut off short because they announced that, there's a bad storm coming. And so we were heading home, and we were coming up the highway toward Carson City, and it just started raining and lightning, and it was just pouring rain, and it was really, that was one time when I said, this storm is kind of freaky. And I wasn't very old and wasn't very bold, and I was a little bit freaked out by storms. Kind of scared me. Most of the time, though, I'm kind of fascinated by storms. Like to watch the lightning and watch a storm roll in and see how it develops and see what happens with it. Kind of like we're experiencing tonight. It kind of just seems like a storm is building up. That's kind of the way. Guys, what about you? Memorable storms. You remember any great storms that particularly fascinated you, or ones that freaked you out, or just nothing comes to mind right now? I don't know.
I remember, I know my mom doesn't remember this, but I remember when I was 6 or 7, this big storm happened, and I went to I think it was, I don't know, it was around nighttime, and I was about to go to bed, but my dad was still up, and I went to bed with my mom, and she said to me while that storm was raging, what was it? It was, thunder is just God moving his furniture around.
Nice thought. God moving the furniture around. When you hear thunder, that rumble of thunder, and kind of the windows are shaking, yes, God just moving the windows around. Well, storms, though, kind of can take kind of a different path than just thunder, lightning, wind, rain, tornadoes. The storms that we can experience in our lives also can be storms of fear, doubt, guilt. They can be storms about broken relationships, people in our house not getting along together. It can be things that we're angry about. It could be things that are going on at school. It can be just worry that we have. It can be any number of things that happen in our lives. I'm reminded of the time when David was a young man, and he had defeated Goliath. He was a very popular man with everybody in the country of Israel, everybody except King Saul. And King Saul became so jealous of David that he tried many times to kill him. And it became quite a storm in David's life. And he said, well, David handled it so great. Everything went well. There were times when David did not handle it. And there were times that he confessed that it was really a struggle. And during that one of those times, he wrote about it in the book of Psalm. And Stacy is going to read for us a little bit of that account. And I want you to listen for how David described the storm that was going on in his life, and more importantly, how he handled it. What did he do about it? I want you to listen to this.
On 34, 4-9. I sought the Lord, and he heard me, and delivered me from all my fears. They looked unto him, and they were lightened, and their faces were not ashamed. This poor man cried, and the Lord heard him, and saved him out of all of his troubles. The angel of the Lord encampeth round about them that fear him, and delivereth them. O taste and see that the Lord is good. Blessed is the man that trusteth in him. O fear the Lord, ye his saints, for there is no want to them that fear him.
Oh, kind of an interesting description. As Stacy grabs her phone and gets ready to read some comments that we've got, we'll just think a minute about that passage where David, first of all, he says he calls himself this poor man. And he describes what a world of hurt he was in. And it was actually a time when he was so scared for his life that he actually joined another nation. He moved to another nation and said, hey, I will go and fight for you even if you fight against the Israelites. And then he faked that he was doing it because he was insane. Probably not the way God would have had him handle that. And when he finally realized that, I think this is a part where he wrote Psalm 34 that Stacy just read for us. And he describes himself as a poor man. I think one of the first important things about handling the storms of life is recognizing that we can't handle them. That we are poor people when it comes to handling the storms of life that occur in our everyday living and those big storms that come along and just rock our world. We can't handle them. But did you notice where David went once he realized he couldn't handle it? Yeah, he went to God and he said, God, I went to he doesn't say it to God, he says it to us, but he says, I went to the Lord and I poured my heart out to him, I prayed to him, and the Lord helped me. And what an amazing thing for us to be encouraged by tonight. No matter what our storms might be, and tonight, maybe you're a little nervous about this thunderstorm coming in. Maybe you've got bigger things to worry about. Maybe you're just sitting there thinking, you know what, life's pretty peachy. No matter where we're at, we need to remember and be encouraged by the fact that Jesus is there for us in the storms of life. Jesus is a person that we can go to and surrender ourselves to him. And I think that key word right there is surrender. That we would give ourselves over to him and say, you know what, Jesus, we're just going to trust you. Kind of like what the disciples found out when they were trying to row the boat across the Sea of Galilee. If you read about that event in the Gospels, you will read that the disciples tried so hard to row and row and row and row, and they couldn't handle the boat themselves. They couldn't handle the storm themselves. And then they see Jesus. And they can't even really handle Jesus because they look at him and they think he's a ghost. But once they surrender to him, once they recognize, hey, Jesus is walking across the water, Jesus is even more powerful than the storm, and they surrendered to him and invited Jesus into the boat, then things changed for them. And you know what? Things will change for us too when we invite Jesus into the boat of our life. Whether you're sitting in calm seas right now or whether you're going through a storm, Jesus wants to help. That's our thought for you tonight, and we hope to encourage you with that. What have you got to say? What are some thoughts that we've got going on? Deshaun said hi a couple times, right? And I think he called me a chicken. Deshaun, did you really call me a chicken? I can't believe that. You know what? When it comes to storms, sometimes I guess I am kind of a chicken. What did anybody else say about storms tonight? Riley?
All I see is Deshaun.
Stacy, so I like sleeping through storms.
Okay. Yep, Deshaun.
Through storms.
Okay. So Deshaun himself said, hey, I like sleeping through storms. We're right there with you, Deshaun. We're glad that you joined us tonight. We miss you, Deshaun. We miss your sisters, Jaden and Maya. And we miss everybody that is not able to be with us right now, live and in person. But we do these things like these live streams to be an encouragement to you so that you can spend time with us and we can spend time with you. Right?
Deshaun says, yes, I did because you are a chicken. And he also says, I miss you guys too.
Yep. We miss that humor from Deshaun. Deshaun, we want you to know that we miss you too. And you know what? This time of being apart is kind of like a storm. So what are we going to do? We're going to trust Jesus. We're going to invite him into the boat. And we're going to say, you know what, Lord, wherever you would have me to go. And whatever you would have me to experience, I'm just going to trust you with it. And we know that Jesus will help us through the storm. Well, that's it for tonight. We want you to know about our new schedule. We are having live streams on Tuesday night, just like this, on the Band app, right here. So you can find us Tuesday nights at 8 o'clock. And now we are meeting in person on Sunday nights. And this Sunday night, we will be meeting at Pete and Kelly Oberlin's house. If you need directions to get there, please let me know. We can get you there. And even if you need a ride to get there, we can help you get a ride there. It'll be a pool party, so bring your swimwear and bring a towel. And be ready for some yard games and some good fun outside. And that will be at 6 o'clock this Sunday night. So throughout the summer, that's kind of our plan. We're going to do in-person parties, get-togethers on Sunday night at 6 p.m. And then Tuesday night at 8, you can find us here on the Band app doing a live stream. Right.
Things happening Saturday?
Nothing's happening on Saturday. Good question, Riley. Happening on Saturday, Tuesdays, and Sundays are our events. Sunday at 6 p.m., Tuesday at 8 p.m., and we will see you online at right here on the Band app, and then this Sunday in person at Pete and Kelly Oberlin's house. Now, I do want to warn you about a week from this Sunday, June 21st. Many of you know that is Father's Day. We will not be having any activities on Father's Day. That way you can spend time with the fathers, the grandfathers, uncles, the important people in your life who have been a father figure to you. And so please note that as well. Thanks for joining our live stream tonight. Thanks for joining Connection Live here on the Band app. Have a good night.